Hello everyone, welcome to the session of CTET Paper 2 Child Development and Pedagogy. Today in this session we are going to discuss the concept of development and its relationship with learning. Before we understand the relationship between development and learning, we must be very clear about the three basic terms like what is growth, development, maturation. Okay, because we often get questions from these areas, so we have to be very clear. So what is growth? Growth refers to structural and physiological changes, and development is concerned with growth as well as those changes in behavior that result from environmental situations. So this definition is by Crow and Crow. Sometimes we get to ask, like, they'll give the definition and they'll be asking who gave this definition. So it will be helpful for you to answer such questions. At least I cannot give you all the definitions. It may be helpful to you to eliminate. So yeah, what does structural means here? Structural changes means the orderly formation of body parts. So if you take a building, structural generally means anything which follows a pattern or an order or a sequence. Okay, like example, if you take a building, first the foundation, then the walls and floor and roof. Similarly, if you take a human being, you'll have the head formed first, and then the trunk, the limbs, and the other parts, all forming a complete human being. Okay, so physiological changes relate to the body's physical functioning. Anything which is related to your physical functioning. It could be internal or external changes. For example, your increase in your height, weight, or the growth of internal organs like heart. So all these are quantitative changes that can be measured. So you have to be very careful here. This is the major difference between this growth and development. So when you discuss growth, you cannot discuss growth alone. You'll always have to compare with development for the better understanding. So this is the major difference between growth and development. Growth is always quantitative and it can only be measured, like kgs in weight, centimeters, inches, like so. This is all. You will always give a measurement to growth. On the other hand, development is qualitative. It is not about measurements but about changes in behavior, skills, and abilities, etc. For example, a child initially may not know how to behave or communicate in different situations, but as the child grows and interacts with the environment, like parents, teachers, or siblings, they learn appropriate behavior, communication, and social skills. Okay. So if you take development, this is the definition by Elizabeth Hurlock. Development is a progressive series of changes that occur in an orderly and predictable pattern as a result of maturation and experience. So according to Hurlock, development is a progressive series of change that occur in an orderly and predictable pattern as a result of maturation and experience. By progressive we mean development moves forward step by step. It is like, for example, once a person reaches childhood from infancy, they do not naturally go back to being an infant. They'll never be an infant again. Once they come to the childhood, they'll never be an infant again. That is what progressive series of changes means. And maturation, as a result, a predictable here means it is always, you can always predict. It is childhood after infancy, adolescence after childhood, so you can predict. It is universal everywhere. This is the order, this is the pattern. That's what she means with predictable pattern. And all this comes from the result, as a result of maturation and experience. So maturation is something which is biologically inherited, like you will not get by practice or training or nothing like. It is always a biological inheritance. Like the falling of the milk teeth and the eruption of permanent teeth, it is an example of maturation, which happens naturally without any learning. That is what I meant to say. On the other hand, experience comes from learning, practice, or interaction with the environment, such as a child learning to speak politely or solve problems. Initially, the child may not speak politely or respectfully with everyone, but as the time goes, as he or she learns, she speaks politely. He or she speaks politely. Okay. Development occurs through the interaction of both. So, experience and maturation. Both are important, both plays the major role. If you take anything, growth, development, learning, maturation, experience, you'll always see this. It occurs through the interaction of both. It is important. Okay, now let's see the what is maturation. I told you it refers to the changes that occur due to biological growth, not because of training or practice. And I gave you this example in the previous slide: falling of the milk teeth and eruption of the permanent teeth. Now, relationship between development and learning. The first relationship is sequential relationship. Learning follows development. This is Piaget's view. According to Piaget, a child can only learn what their development stage allows. Like development of thinking, reasoning, and cognitive structures come first, and learning builds on it. Example: a 3-year-old cannot understand algebra because their cognitive development is not ready. I hope you understand. Next, the interactive relationship. Uh, Learning drives development. This is Vygotsky's view. Vygotsky emphasized that learning actively influences development. Through guidance, social interaction, and instruction, a child can reach higher levels of thinking and skill. So, if you take a child, he can solve a puzzle with the help from a teacher, and gradually learn to do it independently. So Piaget says it is always the development first and learning follows it. But here Vygotsky says that they go hand in hand, they are parallel. Like the child can learn something which is ahead of their stage with the help of some teacher or adults. That is what we call ZPD, zone of proximal development. We'll discuss it later. And the third comes reciprocal relationship. Learning and development support each other. This is the reality, you know. In reality, learning and development often work together. Development provides the foundation while learning enhances and accelerates development. As a child language skill develops, they can read books, which in turn further develops vocabulary and comprehension. So this is the reality. Both are important. Both goes hand in hand. They are parallel. It is not like this proceeds and this proceeds. No, they are parallel. They go hand in hand. Core principles of the relationship. The first principle is this relationship. What we have seen so far, the relationship between learning and development, and the core principle of this relationship is listed below. Readiness are listed below. Readiness to learn, maturation as a foundation, environmental influences. Readiness to learn. Learning cannot be forced. As Piaget said, the child should be biologically and psychologically prepared for it. You cannot force something on a child. Then maturation as a foundation. Biological maturation sets the limits for what can be learned. Maturation provides the basic foundation by setting the natural limits of what can be learned at a given age. For example, a child cannot read fluently before the necessary neural and sensory development occurs. Everything has to be properly developed, so, which is related to language. Then only the child can speak properly, fluently, or whatever. However, but within these maturational limits, the environment plays a crucial role. A rich, stimulating environment with proper guidance, practice, and experience can accelerate learning and help the child reach the developmental potential more effectively. That is why the environmental influences. A stimulating environment can accelerate learning. If you give a proper environment in which a child can learn, they will definitely learn better with a proper environment. The next one is educational implications of teachers. This part explains how teacher should teach keeping development in mind, or how the educator should implement the curricula keeping the development in mind. So teaching should match the age, ability and developmental levels of learners. It should not be too easy or too difficult. So if you are playing a game and that game is too easy, how will you feel? It will be boring for you. Or it is too difficult, it will be frustrating for you and you will not play the game. If you even can't pass the levels, some basic levels too, what will you do? You will not play the game, you will quit the game. Like similarly, in learning also, it should neither be boring, simple, which will be boring. It should not be difficult. It will be frustrating for the children. Next one is scaffolding. I told you before, the ZPD. Teachers should give temporary support to help students perform tasks slightly above their current ability. So, in a zone where teachers should help the students to perform slightly above their current ability, then the support should be gradually removed as the learner becomes independent. It is not like you will always support the children. No, you should give time to the children to do it on their own. Example, when your max teacher solves a problem, first she solves it, she guides the students, she gives examples, and then she lets the students to try on their own. This is scaffolding. Okay. And holistic approach. Education should aim for total development, physical, cognitive, social and emotional, rather than just academic learning. Education is always holistic. It should be holistic, it should not always focus on marks, exams. No, it should include everything, like physical, cognitive, social and emotional. For example, if you indulge students in group activities, it will develop social skills, how to behave in a set, in a with a group of people. And sports develops physical growth. If you let the children to participate in discussion, it develop emotional intelligence, like when to talk, when not to talk, when to listen. So listening is such an important thing. Some people, they never let others to speak. Just like it is always their turn. It is zero emotional intelligence. That is why emotional intelligence is very important, and everything should be included in teaching in education. Now let's move to the characteristics of development. These are the important characteristics of development. The first one comes physical or motor. Gaining control over large muscle like running, jumping and fine motor skills like writing and buttoning. Large muscle in the sense your gross motor skills, like first a child will be trained to walk or run or do something, like everything which will be engaged the large muscles, that is gross motor skills, and then slowly gradually the child will learn to use their fine motor skills like writing, buttoning, drawing. Even when they play, they'll hold they the small kids will not know how to use small things, when they grow up they'll use little things to play, like building blocks and all. That is physical development. And cognitive is nothing but everything which is related to your mental ability. If you take for early years, when the early years, like the baby uses only its senses and actions, then they'll learn some words, then they'll have memory, they'll have problem solving, and they can think logically and abstractly. This is the way the cognitive thinking proceeds. And we have a separate theory of the stages of development by Piaget. We'll discuss this cognitive domain detail in a detailed manner there. Social, next comes the social and emotional. Understanding self, others feelings, empathy, forming relationship, and developing self concept. So like recognizing emotions like happiness, anger, fear, and later on having a self concept. So what can I do, what I cannot do, what am I? All this comes under social and emotional development. Like first the baby will only be crying and then babbling, and then it will have an understanding of receptive language and expressive language. It will express and receive the language, understand the language which is spoken by others. So now let's see the differences between growth and development. So you can see in this picture, this arrow you can see, which indicates the growth, the height of the plant. Okay, but here you have this shows the functionality of the plant, like how tall it has grown, how green it is, how beautiful it is. So growth only refers the height or weight or anything which can be measured, but development refers to the overall functioning of the organism, like how many leaves it has, how green it is. It includes everything. Growth is the part of the development, and development is an overall concept. Okay. Differences between growth and development. Growth, as I told you, growth is quantitative, it is measurable. Development is qualitative, it is only observable. Growth includes physical changes like height, weight. Development includes functional changes like skills and behavior. Growth stops at certain age, but development continues throughout life. It is not like you'll grow forever. No, your height will stop at certain point, but development is not like that. You can develop your skill at any age. You can change any behavior which you don't like at any age. Age is just a number. You must have heard this. And can be measured using tools. I told you, your growth can be measured with tools like weighing scale. It will show you how many kgs you have gained or how many kgs you have lost. But development access only through observation. You will not have any tools. Now comes the core debates. We have some debates regarding this development. Okay, only this plays the major role in development or that plays the major role in development. Psychologists used to have difference of opinions, and that is the debates here. The first one is nature versus nurture. So nature means innate biological factors. One group of psychologists say that for development, nature plays the crucial role. That is, their biological factors, their genetical factors, in their heredity, that plays the crucial role. But other people say nurture plays the important role. What is nurture? Nurture can refer to upbringing or life experience more generally. You can say the environment. It is heredity, this is environment. That's it. Like if you take nature, your height, potential, eye color, skin color, inborn intelligence, some people will have that intelligence by their birth. They are called gifted children. And the nurture refers to the influences of environment like family upbringing, nutrition, education, school environment, culture and society. Like uh, family, your family plays a major role in your development, in everything. Nutrition, it's like, you know there's a saying like, you are what you eat. Your nutrition and what you eat is very very important. Education, what kind of education you get. School environment, why do we prefer private schools over government school? Because of the school environment. It is not that education is better here and it is worse there. No, we prefer it for the school environment where the child will be disciplined and all. I'm not getting deeper into it. Culture and society, what culture you belong to, what society you belong to, everything plays a major role. You cannot say that nature alone matters, nurture alone matters. Everything matters. That is, the modern psychologist says that both plays the major role. It is interrelated. Nature and nurture are interrelated. You cannot leave out the one for the sake of other. Now comes continuity versus discontinuity. Continuity refers to slow, gradual and ongoing process. Changes occur step by step without sudden break. There will be any, like crying, babbling, single words, short sentence, complex sentence. So it is gradual, smooth. So who are the supporters of this continuity theory? Behaviorist like Skinner and all. We'll discuss it later. Development is you can say development is like a smooth flowing river in terms of continuity. If you take discontinuity, development happens in distinct changes. Each stage is qualitatively different from the previous one. It is like the abrupt change. The previous stage and the present stage will have an abrupt change. That is what discontinuity means. Like sudden shifts or leaps in thinking or behavior occur. Example, Piaget's cognitive stage. Like if you take an example, when a baby cries when a stranger approaches, clings to the mother. The fear appears abruptly, not slowly. So far, the baby is surrounded by the people who the baby knows very well. But on all on a sudden, a stranger comes. How can the baby identify this person does not belong to my family? That sudden change is known as the discontinuity. Okay, if you take an example, this the seed growing into a sapling and turning into a tree, smooth, as I told you, like the flowing of a river. But here, if you take this caterpillar, turns out to be a butterfly. This is weird. This is abrupt. I cannot say weird, it is abrupt. That is the difference between continuity and discontinuity. Next comes early versus later experiences. Early childhood experiences, especially in the first 5 to 6 years, have strong, lasting influence on development. And later childhood, adolescence, and adulthood experience can also signify shape or later development. Some people say that it is only the earlier experiences plays the major role. It is true, what kind of trauma or what kind of situations you are faced, you are in, will definitely have an impact on you, even when you are grown up, even when you turned out to be an adult. That is true actually. But later experience also plays a major role. It is not like you face trauma and your life is ruined. Your later life experiences helps you to change, helps you to recover from it. So both are true. If you take a child who receives warm care and happy family, good school environment, it will develop trust and confidence on the child, and he'll turn out to a better performing child. So on the other hand, if you take a child who is who has always to be afraid of something, who has always experienced neglect, and and that child will turn out to be a more uh, insecure and anxiety filled child. So if you take so later childhood's experience is more of corrective and shaping, as I told you. Experience you get, and it will influence your skills and attitudes, and it will change your perspective on your life. Later experiences, we can say, will refine and strengthen the earlier foundation. That's it. So now let's see some questions. Development is the result of nature and, very easy questions. Nurture. Development is the result of nature and nurture. Person A argues that the biological inheritance of an individual is important in child development. Person B argues that the environment in which the child grows is very important in child development. Which development issue is highlighted in their argument? This is also an easy question. Uh, Continuity versus discontinuity, early versus late experience, nature versus nurture, none of the above. Nature versus nurture. The answer is nature versus nurture. Next question. Which of the following statement accurately describes the difference between growth and development in educational psychology? Option A, growth refers to an increase in cognitive abilities, while development refers to physical changes. Option B, growth refers to measurable physical changes, while development refers to holistic changes including cognitive, emotional, and social aspects. Option C, growth is related to emotional changes, while development focuses on physical changes. Option D, growth and development are similar and interchangeable terms. What is the question here? Which you have to find out which statement accurately describes the difference between growth and development in terms of educational psychology. So what could be the answer? Yes, growth refers to measurable physical changes, while development refers to holistic changes including cognitive, emotional, and social aspects. So if you take option A, growth refers to an increase in cognitive abilities, while development refers to physical changes. No, I told you growth is quantitative, it is always measurable, so it will not measure your cognitive abilities. Well, development refers to no, development includes everything, not only physical changes. It includes physical changes too, but it includes everything, not only physical changes. Option C, if you take option C, growth is related to emotional changes while development focus on physical changes. Growth doesn't measure this emotional changes. As I told you many times, growth is qualitative. and it doesn't give any value or measurement to your emotional changes. While development focus on physical changes, no, it is holistic. It doesn't measure physical changes alone. Growth and development are similar and interchangeable terms. No, they are not similar. So option B will be correct. Maturation and growth cycle are determinants of. So maturation and growth cycle are determinants of which of the term given below? Very simple question. It is development. Yes. So the last question, which of the following statement regarding child growth is incorrect? Growth is related to physical aspects. Growth is a qualitative matter. Growth stops after a certain age. Expectation of equilibrium in growth are not assumed. What could be the correct answer for this? Which statement is incorrect? You have to find out which statement is incorrect. You have to be very careful with this incorrect, not. I have made many mistakes regarding this, not incorrect. I'll not read this incorrect or not. So be very careful. Don't be like me. Which of the following statements regarding child growth is incorrect? Yes, B. Growth is a qualitative matter. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for being. Thank you so much for listening to the class, and I hope you liked it, and I hope it was useful for you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe the channel. Thank you so much. Let's meet in another session. Thank you. Bye.